Okay, so I want to come on this morning and just say what I think the point of all of this is, right? From my understanding of psychology and spirituality, the point of all of this is values. We bury it in all different kinds of language in both of those realms, in science and faith, but it's all pointing back to values. Every trial and test, every person in your life that triggers you is saying, do you value this? And how do you demonstrate what you value? By giving it attention, by who you hang out with, by what you express, by what you allow expressed towards you. Those are all demonstrations of your values, right? So for me in my own life, what I have been doing for the last several years, well over a decade, but really intentionally for about the last 10 years, is honing in on my values, right? So when I say I value truth, I sat down and I actually wrote out what I defined that as. Because nobody else's definition was going to work for me. I had to have my own, because we don't live it unless we own it. And if we don't define it, we don't own it, right? We're the label makers. And we believe the labels that we give. So I became the label maker. And I went, all right, I'm going to focus in on these specific areas. So I defined truth. I defined love. I defined honor, integrity, dignity. And those are my core ones. I find that when I focus on those, when I focus on love, truth, and honor, everything else falls in line. It changes how I treat everybody and how everybody responds to me. So I sat down and I defined them. But I didn't just write a dictionary definition. I wrote down what it looked like in behavior, word, choice. How was I going to respond when truth was given? Even when I didn't want to hear it or wasn't ready for it. I wrote out everything. I wrote out what I was going to look for in other people based on this. And I wrote out everything. And then I began living as these words. I focused on one at a time. I focused on small behavior changes, right? It's like, if I'm going to be truthful, I'm going to be accountable. So I started applying accountability to specific areas in my life, right? And it didn't necessarily mean like an accountability that I changed anything in that moment. It just meant that I became aware of how I was living my own value. I'm kind of spinning on where I want to go with that next. I think that it's really, really important to define our values and then start looking at how we're applying those to the people around us. You cannot subconsciously maintain a belief through whatever affirmations you try to do if you are not managing what you're letting get in here. What you listen to, even if you're not paying attention and it's on as background noise, you absorb it. Your subconscious absorbs everything. And once you define your values, you have to start paying attention to what you're letting get into your mind. That means you have to start looking at the people around you. Because whatever behaviors you are allowing other people to express around you, you are allowing to take root within you. That means you can have somebody who is a great person in all areas, but this one tiny area, like inappropriate behavior with the teller at the grocery store, you have to really start evaluating that. Because every time you let somebody else behave in a way that goes against your values and you do nothing, say nothing, that's the root of self-betrayal. Self-betrayal is when you are allowing things to exist around you that do not align with your values. And you have to have a plan for that. How are you going to protect your safety, security, stability, your form, if your values are threatened, right? Like, what level of response is appropriate for given situations? These are things you can write out and plan before you ever encounter anything. But you can't do any of this. You can't set boundaries if you don't know what your core values are. Your core values, if you don't know them, are going to leave you stuck in trauma loops, because you're going to continue to allow people into your life and take up your attention who don't serve your values or represent your values. Relationships, in order for love to be expressed freely, and this again is my opinion, this is how I live my life. In order for love to be expressed freely, I have to take care of the garden. And that means that I have to look at the relationships around me and make sure that the environment that they are providing offers safety, security, and stability in all those ways. And if I am allowing the people around me to behave in ways that are dishonorable, untrustworthy, inconsistent, disrespectful, if I'm lying, deceptive, all of these things, if I'm letting people be in my presence and receive my attention who are planting even subtle weeds that act in opposition to my values, I am betraying my values. As soon as I'm aware of them, I need to do something about them. If it's going on before you know your values, your body is trying to tell you, and we haven't been taught how to listen to our bodies. But learning how to listen to your bodies and work with your emotions also means you have to understand your values, because how are you going to clearly identify which emotion you're feeling if you don't know what your value is triggering, right? They work together is what I'm trying to say. You can find one and be led to the other, but they're very cooperative, right? Your emotions, energy in motion, wants to align naturally with your values. And when you act against it, that creates the limitation, lack, discomfort, pain, fear, because it is our body's way of telling us this is not what we value. And we have a culture and a society that socially has reinforced behaviors that teach us to persist in directions against our values in order to maintain connections that do not feed or support or help our values grow. We have to define our values. I'm going in circles and I keep trying to loop back because I want it to really be clear and just be that simple. It is that simple. Everything is pointing back to values. If you want to clear your trauma, if you want to work with your fragmentation, if you want to address polarity and unity and learn how to live in balance and all of these concepts, it's all values. And once you have your values locked in, practicing those principles and living those lifestyles that you are seeking becomes innate. You'll be able to look at a tool and go, oh, I see how to apply that to my values and what I'm living and doing, and it'll just take off. And the landing strip is a lot smoother in either direction. That to me is, that's my good analogy of doing the inner work. I'm just making the landing strip smooth. Because I've been running around working against myself and my own values because of all the ways we've been conditioned and programmed to put them aside, not trust them, not listen to ourselves, not believe our inner guidance in the face of belonging, right? They taught us all of these things. But in order to deprogram yourself, in order to get out, what do you value? What does it look like? What does it act like? What does it feel like in your skin? What kind of life does it produce? What kind of things does it bring to you? Start answering those questions and you'll change everything, without even trying any further. That's it. Love you.